Usually, the mainline console titles hog the attention for Sonic discussions. However, today, I want to take a look into the handheld Sonic games. In recent years, we've been getting fewer and fewer handheld releases, as well as fewer main games, and the few we did get have, at least to me, felt like inferior versions to their main release counterparts. Now, you may be thinking, of course the handhelds will be inferior, they have worse hardware, but that would be missing the point I am trying to make. Sonic handheld games used to strive to be more than just a lesser version of another Sonic game. Understanding that the handheld devices were less powerful, they used to be made into their own unique experiences instead, that were complementary to the big titles rather than being secondary to them. But no need to take my word for it, let's take a dive into the past so we can see what it was that the handheld games used to do that I state they no longer achieve. There have been many titles released for portable devices during Sonic's career, like fan favourite Sonic Triple Trouble for the Sega Game Gear. Whilst I have played most of the older handheld games thanks to collections, I haven't ever finished one, and as such I lack the information to confidently talk about them in depth for now. What I will say about the older handheld games is that they were plentiful, and so naturally there were some hits, but also some misses. They didn't force themselves to be direct copies of the console games, which was a wise move, otherwise they would have just been inferior versions. Instead, they experimented with ideas the main releases had not, such as power-ups and special stages, or even entire genres like with Tails' Adventure. Where I really wanted to focus this video on is with the handheld games around the Adventure era. Sonic Adventure was the first successful transition for Sonic into the third dimension, and to help translate the feel of his games, they underwent some redesigning. Naturally, this meant they no longer provided the same experience as the 8-bit titles. To fill this new gap that emerged, Sonic Advance 1 was created for the Game Boy Advance. The Game Boy was nowhere near as capable as the GameCube, but it was able to compare to the power of Sonic 3 and Knuckles. As a result, Sonic Advance acts as a return to form for Sonic. It is a full 2D adventure and a spiritual successor to the classic platformers. Sonic Advance provides 4 different playable characters. For Sonic, Tails and Knuckles, they retain all of their traditional abilities. However, their visual design was updated to the Adventure redesign, which resulted in some of the most expressive sprites I have ever seen. They also gained new moves inspired by Sonic Adventure, which gave more tools for players to utilise. Amy Rose was the 4th playable character, but she was never playable in a previous 2D platformer before. This meant she would need a fresh playstyle, which took heavy inspiration from her Adventure appearance. Amy couldn't curl into a ball, so she had to swing her hammer instead. This meant she was far more vulnerable to damage than the other 3. She also couldn't spin dash, having to settle for a short leap instead. She could spin her hammer in the air for some reach, and if she hit a spring with the hammer, it doubled the launch distance. As a result, Amy was effectively the hard mode for Sonic Advance, and for that reason, I enjoyed her just as much as the other characters. Sonic Advance also had its own zones. Whilst yes, it starts with a beach just like Sonic Adventure, they hardly share anything beyond aesthetic, and some zones, like Secret Base Zone, are entirely unique. The music was also great, despite its hardware limitations. Sonic Advance even had a tiny Chow Garden, which was a watered-down version of the real thing, but you could access exclusive items and minigames. Better yet, you could connect Advance with a GameCube and transfer Chow-related items between the games. Advance also contained a time attack mode and multiplayer races. You may be wondering why I focus so much on Sonic Advance 1. The point of that was to demonstrate how much Advance 1 achieved despite the fact it was on limited hardware. Brand new sprites, great music, distinct levels, multiple characters, extra modes, etc. Sonic Advance was packed with content and personality. Even if you had Sonic Adventure, you may still have wanted Advance so you could experience the levels and gameplay in addition to it being a game on the go. Its sequel, Sonic Advance 2, provided more of the same. Numerous zones with 4 playable characters, some really nice sprite work, returning extra features and whatnot. There were enough changes to still warrant a playthrough. Advance 2 encouraged exploration by sprinkling keys across the level. You would need them all if you wanted to unlock the special stage. Advance 2 special stages featured E100 from Adventure 1 as a cameo appearance, which was a nice way of tying the games together. Advance 2 also relates to the main games in another way. Amy was not the fourth playable character, although she was unlockable. Instead, it was Cream the Rabbit who debuted in this game. Cream was central to the game's plot as Eggman had captured her mother, thus setting the game's events in motion. Cream had an interesting attack style with her pet Chow Cheese, which, yes, was arguably incredibly balance-breaking, but new nonetheless. The marvellous thing about Cream's appearance here is that she, a handheld character, would go on to become a staple member of the main cast, showing how valued handheld games were back then.
So prepare Sega, what will Sonic Forces focus on?
Zavok. Metal Sonic. Maybe Chaos.
We'll have a Chow Garden for the Chow. It could be like a Sonic Adventure 3. And I could tend the Chow.
Nobody mentions Sonic Adventure 3 and lives. Not even one of my own.
Sonic Advance 3 added even more to the formula. For a start, new tricks were added when jumping off certain ramps, which could be carefully timed to access new areas or power-ups in the way that not only fit the Sonic style, but was much more akin to the tricks Sonic characters performed in other games at the time. The big change, however, was the new partner system. You could pair up any two members of the 5-character cast. Doing so would give you new tag abilities, but also augment the moveset of your controlled character. This provided much replay opportunity alone, but it was complemented with a refined exploration system from Advance 2. In this game you must locate Chow instead of keys, but you didn't need to do it all in one go, as now the game had hub worlds allowing you to revisit levels. Some areas also would need certain character combos to access. Obviously this was all optional. However, if you committed to it, you would be able to play as an exclusive pair between Supersonic and Eggman for the final mission. Much like the classic handheld games, there was an adventure-era handheld title that explored a different genre than platformer. This game was known as Sonic Battle. The second and also last Sonic fighting game Sega has released thus far. Sonic Battle was an ambitious attempt at not only having a portable fighter, but also having a fighting game that held enough unique mechanics to still feel like a Sonic game. A rather ambitious goal to tackle both at once. Sonic Battle's story was far more fleshed out compared to the advanced titles, having deep connections to Sonic Adventure 2 by exploring more about Professor Gel Robotnik's less known research projects, again linking to the main games. Sonic Battle introduced a robot named Emerald, who would develop as a character across the course of the game and acted as a point of view for the player, at least after a certain point. Emerald was also a gameplay mechanic. His moves start out as terrible, but through play you could unlock the moves of the other characters. This meant that eventually Emerald could have a mix of all your favourite moves from the Sonic cast, making him a very fun addition to the game. So Sonic Battle managed to tackle making an original fighting game with a fulfilled moveset customizer alongside being on a handheld with all original assets and animations. That was a lot for a spin-off game. Sonic Battle is also an example of continuity. I already brought up links with Adventure, but it also connected to the Sonic Advance series. Amal is ultimately destroyed at the game's finale. However, in Sonic Advance 3, Dr. Eggman has a robotic henchman that looks an awful lot like him. It is revealed that it is in fact a reconstructed Emerald, and by the game's conclusion, Tails helps him regain his independence. As a nice nod to Sonic Adventure, Sonic Battle featured a remake of Gamma, as well as the temporary return of Chaos, with both of them being playable and thus making Emerald capable of copying their moveset. Whilst the Game Boy had a few other minor Sonic games, the next landmark title was Sonic Rush for the Nintendo DS. This game accomplished a lot. For a start, it is the game that introduced the boost mechanic to the Sonic series, which has now become a staple. Sonic Rush oozes in style, with an iconic soundtrack to go along with it. Besides the boost mechanic, Sonic Rush's main addition was its own character, Blaze the Cat. Much like the boost mechanic, Blaze originates from this handheld title rather than a console release. Sonic Rush would get a sequel down the line, which kept the formula of the first game, but added new elements. In Rush Adventure, players would progressively unlock new seafaring vehicles in order to not only traverse the world, but play minigames as well. Rush Adventure was sort of like one large overworld where you would need to travel the sea to access the next level. It incorporated resource management and a home base system as well. Overall, it was a very ambitious title that chose to not simply copy what it did before, but expand upon it. A rather infamous RPG for Sonic was also released on the DS, going by the name of Sonic Chronicles. Taking great inspiration from the franchise's extensive lore, Sonic Chronicles features numerous iconic locations and characters that you will meet on your quest to combat a mysterious Echidna clan that seems to have returned from the grave. That's right, a handheld game decided to take the initiative and explore Knuckles' ancestry in greater depth. That said, the gameplay was heavily hampered by a forced and gimmicky touchpad control. It also fell into some legal disputes with an ex-comic writer. This, combined with the developing studio having a change of management, meant that Sonic's first venture into the RPG world would also, as of now, be his last. There also exist a pair of Sonic games released for the PlayStation Portable, known as Sonic Rivals. They are simple racing games in which two characters attempt to reach the end before the other, as well as featuring boss battles, story modes, and collectibles. The first game is rather bare bones, with only 4 playable characters, but each have a near identical story mode. This is, however, where Silver canonically met Sonic after the events of Sonic 2006. The sequel was more fulfilling, as it not only featured double the playable characters, but had new types of battle modes sprinkled in between stages. Rivals 2 even had fully voiced dialogue, which was a nice surprise.
Who's there? I know there's somebody here, so show yourself.
Long time no see, Shadow. I've been looking for you.
Metal Sonic? And that voice. It's you, Doctor.
Indeed. I had my little metal friends hunt you down because I need your help, Shadow.
Ultimately, the rival games played it rather safe, but Sonic Rivals 2 definitely had a lot more going for it, as it involved a large number of the Sonic cast into the story. From here on out though, things get a little messy. Sonic Colors would receive a handheld equivalent under the same name for the DS, the first time in a long time where the handheld game was supposed to mirror the console experience. That said, Sonic Colors DS plays much more like a Sonic Rush 3 than anything else. It has the same style of UI interface, the same boosting mechanic, but lacking in any playable character besides Sonic. The story was a little different as well, featuring the Mother Wisp and a Burst Wisp that were both absent from the Wii version. Furthermore, the extended Sonic cast made cameo appearances in the side missions of the DS game, whereas in the console game only Tails was ever present. Sonic Colors on the DS, for the most part, managed to maintain a distinct identity from its console counterpart, and arguably had a more complete narrative vision. However, the fact it shared a name and was marketed as just a DS version of Colors meant many people likely skipped over it in favour for the console release. Following suit from Sonic Colors, Sonic Generations was also accompanied by a handheld version for the 3DS. It shares the same story and premise of being split into 3 eras. To help it stand out, the 3DS version has a completely different set of levels and bosses from the main version, given the proper remix treatment with new songs and layouts. Unfortunately, modern Sonic is limited to 2D for the entire experience. A sign of games to come, I suppose. Continuing this trend, Sonic Lost World had an appearance on the 3DS. Unlike Generations, this game had proper 3D Sonic for gameplay. It also had its own level layouts, but many of these were incredibly frustrating to play. By far its worst addition was the special stages, in which you would have to navigate a void-like space and collect orbs, using gyro controls. Needless to say, this controlled horridly. Lost World really felt like a strict downgrade over the Wii U Lost World, and that's saying something. After Lost World, the last handheld titles were too tied to the Sonic Boom universe. One was a console counterpart, with the major draw being Styx the Badger was playable. The other was an independent release that featured a gimmick centered around freezing and melting water. Both these games underperformed, with the latter seeming like an attempt to salvage the assets of the first game to make a low-budget sequel. And this brings us to present day, where there has not been a handheld Sonic release since. The handheld games have lost their uniqueness and their ambition, becoming nothing more than soulless copies of the main games. We no longer get to have adventures with characters that may not always find themselves in the spotlight, nor can we experience Sonic in other genres beside All-Stars Racing and the Olympic Games. I did not cover every modern handheld game, but I believe the ones I did cover have shown my point. I cannot say whether or not this decline was due to a lack of passion or budget, but the absence of the handheld games has left a noticeable gap in the amount of Sonic content. Some may tell me that due to the rise of mobile gaming and the decline of dedicated handheld gaming devices, that it is only natural that we do not have new handheld games releasing. To that I say, although it is true making a handheld game is unlikely now, the work that would have made them can be redirected into simply making spin-off titles. Yes, we still have the Olympics and racing games, but the teams that made those were not the teams that made Sonic Advance, etc. I'm not even asking for Sega to rush games, I'm just very curious as to why the teams that worked on handhelds have seemingly been dropped and not replaced. Regardless, that was all I had to say on the matter. It seems Sonic is just producing less content overall, and to me it's at a rather worryingly slow rate when you compare it to any other time in Sonic's history. Thank you for watching and making it all the way to the end. Feel free to share your perspective in the comments below, and I hope to see you next time.